Hello, this time I would like to show how to use and set up the repeat and inline function in Yate. If you work with the prompt query function, you often have the problem that these queries are called several times for each file individually. You can split the script and call a second script with a run command, which then does the actual work without these queries. However, there is also the option of running a script within the script using the inline scripts function. As an example for the script, I chose renaming artwork descriptions from images. For example, if you have inserted images from the browser directly into the video files, Yate will automatically insert the URL of the images in the description text. I would now like to replace these descriptions with other names. Since it is not possible in Yate to delete or edit several descriptions at the same time, and I would therefore have to change all entries individually, I create an action script for this task. I will now demonstrate what this script does. When you start the script, queries appear in which you are asked to provide certain information about the name change that the script should then process. In the first query, enter the name or parts of the description text that should be changed. In this case, I only enter the beginning of the URL, http. In the next query, I enter the new name. The script is set up in such a way that the first image is always given the name poster. However, this function is only an example and can also be changed. If multiple images have similar description text, the script will automatically add a number to the text. In the next example, this image is the only one with the name single image. This name is not included in any other image. I run the script again. If only one entry is found, no number may be added. This must be considered when creating the script. Since it is important to me, I have added two more options. It is also possible to enter nothing in the queries, which is more difficult than expected. What does that mean? As you can see, these three images have no description text. I start the script again. If you don't enter anything in the first prompt, all images without a description text will be provided with a new description text, with several images also with a consecutive number. And the next option is to delete artwork descriptions completely. If you don't enter anything in the second prompt, the descriptions corresponding to the search term from the first prompt will be deleted. Now let's get to the script. Create a new action script. Since I have already prepared the script, I will now explain the functions in detail. Let's start at the top with the function prompts. Select Prompts, then Prompt for text. The first query captures the text you want to change. A search is then made later to determine whether this text is contained in the description. I refer to it as old description text. Enter a query text that will later be displayed in the prompt window. Enter the variable in which your entered text should be saved. Select variable 1. Since we can do without further information in the prompt window, also select hide info. The second query stores the new text to replace the old one. I refer to it as new description text. Then when you enter the name, a number is automatically added by the script. This number is always created in the order the images are in the file. The image with the smallest index number gets the number 1. Enter a query text that will later be displayed in the prompt window. Also, the variable in which your entered text should be saved. Select variable 2. Since we can also do without further information in the prompt window here, select hide info. Since we want to set up a repetition of certain functions, we now determine the number of repetitions that should be executed. Since the number can be different for each video file, we determine the number of all images contained in the file. Select Artwork, then Artwork Information, drag it to the right. Select the first entry in the pop-up list, Artwork Count, and as storage destination, variable 3. Now we come to the repeat function. This function is used to start repetitions of the inline script that we will create below. Select Flow Control, then Repeat for, drag it to the right. In this function there are several parameters that need to be set up. At the top we enter the variable in which the variable enters a kind of protocol of the repetitions. When the specified number of repetitions is reached, the repeat function stops. This value is overwritten with each repetition, not added. Choose the variable 0. In the input mask below, with the equals sign, we enter the number to start with in the variable 0. Enter a 0 as the starting value. This is important because the index of the images also starts at 0. We also need the content of variable 0 for other functions. In the input mask below, enter the number of repetitions, either a direct value or, in this case, the track variable 3. Right-click, then insert Yate escape sequence, then variables, track variable. You can set up this variable. Replace hash with number 3. Just to understand, in order to process the 7 images in this video file, we only need 6 repetitions of the inline script, since the first round is not a repetition. Therefore, it is important that you enter is less than in the pop-up list in front of it. We have to subtract 1 repetition from the value in variable 3. To illustrate individual parameters, I export the variable 0 into the catalog number field. The entries that the repeat function creates in each pass are then listed in a row. Here are some examples to illustrate what is entered in the variable 0 during the execution of the script. I save the script and run it. You will now see the list of the changes in the catalog number field. The first pass, as set, begins with 0, followed by 6 repetitions. In the next test I enter a fixed value, 7, because there are 7 images, and switch from is less than to is less than and equals. I save the script and run it. As you can see, a repetition has now been added. In the input mask with the designation adjustment, we determine with which value an increase in variable 0 is to be carried out. Enter a 1 here. For the third test, I increase the adjustment value to 2. I save the script and run it. The index number was always increased in steps of 2. By increasing this value, only 4 passes are executed, then the maximum value of 6 is reached. In order to be able to select the inline script under Run, you must first add a start function to the script. Select Flow Control, then Start, drag it to the right. Enter a name for this Start function. Now you can select this Start function in the pop-up list of the Repeat function or enter it directly. Note that the following inline script also needs an End function. This means you need to add a second Start function to mark the end. The Start function is start and end at the same time. Now let's get to the actual inline action. With the following function we create a query about the description text of the image with a certain index number which we retrieve from variable 0. Select Artwork, then Indexed Artwork. In the pop-up list select Get Description. Enter variable 0 in the input mask below. Store the result in variable 4. The first time the inline script is run, this will be the image with index number 0. This is the first picture in the series. The index of the images always starts at 0. 02 Then we save the description text from this image in variable 4. In the next 3 functions we run tests. To perform these tests, select Comparisons, then Compare Text. In the first test we test variable 4, in which we have saved the description text, whether the search term that we have saved in variable 1 is contained. Select Contains and Case Insensitive. We now specify the variable 1 as the verification value. If true, we set variable 7 to 1. Else, if false, we set the variable to 0. Now let's do a second test. We test whether the variable 1 is empty. This is necessary because this check does not work in contains mode. We now select is equal to. We leave the entry for text empty. In the test below, we test whether variable 4 is also empty. We select is equal to here as well. Leave the entry for text blank. If true, we set variable 7 to 1. Else, If false, we set the variable 7 to 0. With this test, we make it possible that if you don't enter anything in the first prompt, all artworks can be edited without a description. With the third test, we create another possibility. If you leave the second prompt text empty, all found descriptions of the first prompt will be deleted. Test the variable 7 whether it contains the value 1. If true, then test if variable 2 is empty. If true, set the artwork item with index number from variable 0 to empty. Leave the input mask at set to empty. Then set variable 7 to 0. As a result, no further functions are executed. Now we come to the actual functions of the script. First, we test whether a 1 is stored in variable 7. Only if true do we execute the next functions. With the next function, we create a pre-incremented number with which the new description texts are to be numbered. This number is only increased if the search text is contained. The function is located under numeric, then increment variable. The variable 5 newly created by this function has an initial value of 0 and then always increases it by +1. The first number is therefore 1 and the next time the value is 2, and so on. The following functions may not be so easy to understand. With the next function we perform another test. We test whether a 1 is entered in variable 5. If so, and this is always the case the first time, then replace the old description text of the image with the index number of variable 0 with the new description text in variable 2. This is then only the entered text, without a number. If false, the value in variable 5 is other than 1, then another function should be executed by the else function. In this function we determine that the new description text should be composed of two variables. From variable 2 of the new description, and the number from variable 5. Insert a space between both variables. Since this function is only executed if there is a 2 in variable 5, we have to give the number 1 to the first description text that was changed. So we store the value of variable 0 in another variable, variable 6. With this we store the index number of the image that was modified first. We can then use this information to change the description text of the first image. With the help of the stored index number from variable 6, we can determine the correct first image and now replace the description text again with variable 2, which contains the new description text, and then only add a space and a 1. Sometimes it is necessary that further functions are to be executed in the script afterwards, which may not be repeated. I named the second start function second inline action. This second start function is very important and urgently needed, as it also marks the end of the first inline action. How you use this second inline action is up to you. For example, I have entered here that the name poster should always be entered for the first image. Also here you need another start function that marks the end. Choose batch end to finish. The only important thing with this second inline action is that the run command must be entered further up, and in this case even above the first inline action. To add the run function, select flow control, then run. This is necessary because it must be ensured that the description text of the first image is always renamed first, otherwise the numbering could only start at 2 under certain circumstances.
That's it.